Part 1. Well, here's my tragic story. I am 57 and wayward wife is 54. We have been married for a few months shy of 30 years. Whirlwind romance and married about 1.5 years after we met. We have 2 adult male children, ages 27 and 24, who are on their own and doing quite well for themselves. I'd say we've had a pretty steady, uneventful marriage. We have always gotten along great, rarely argue about anything important. We share a few solidly connected hobbies, such as playing golf together, but have also always willingly given time to the other for their pursuits. Importantly, our values, religion, views of the world, and thoughts on child rearing lined up really well, and the result was 2 amazing children that never let us down. She was an amazing mother to them and quite selfless at the time, which makes the selfishness of the betrayal all the more difficult to accept. As with many other couples at this point in a marriage, our intimacy had dropped a fair amount in last several years. I'm pretty quiet, and never pushed her when I got the sense she wasn't feeling it. All that said, our day-to-day life was pretty great, with more than a few people saying over the last few weeks how could this possibly happen to them. On June 17th, she said we need to talk. It was pretty short. I've been unhappy for a while, and I want a divorce. She next moved into ILYB and ILWY, and I then asked the relevant question if there was someone else. She said yes. It has been going on for over 18 months. Some of it she clearly covered by saying she was going out with friends, which really wasn't that often, but I travel extensively for work and am gone 2-3 nights a week, every week. That's a huge window of opportunity. My early attempts the first few days didn't go well, and she stated, I've already moved on. She moved her stuff out within the week and is living with him. Maybe there were warning signs, and I chose to ignore them a bit over the last 6 months or so. I'd call from the road, and she always seemed a bit distracted. I'd wrap up conversations with I love you and a few times got back as little as an okay. Now, the woman is a hopeless non-romantic and doesn't even like Valentine's Day, so I brushed that off. She clearly had an amazing ability to compartmentalize her 2 lives. She even was clever enough not to use our toll pass going back and forth across the river to another state where he lives to avoid a trail. Needless to say, I'm totally shattered. I don't sleep. I've dropped 11 pounds, my BP and heart rate are way up, and I'm now on medications. I did mention this to her the other day when I had to drop something off at her work, and there was only mild sympathy. I've known it for a long time, but the woman lacks empathy. I see it in the dynamic with her family, through this and other general interactions with others where that would be appropriate. Speaking of her family, they've been very good to me over the years. Her parents love me like a son and squarely have my back. They have not spoken to her and have no plans to yet. They are headed for therapy themselves this week, and I worry about their health as they are both 80. Other than my kids, I have no local family. Speaking of my kids, they have been absolute rocks for me throughout this, and I am so proud. My oldest in particular is going to take a long time to come around. My youngest had a sit down with her, which got nowhere about 2 weeks ago, and he didn't hold back. His finally line, you always taught us to take the moral high ground, and now I see you as the biggest hypocrite ever. Ouch. Apparently, that drew hysterical crying. Good. There is no path forward from my perspective. There have been few, I'm so sorry, but actions speak louder than words. The level of deceit and lies of omission and commission to be able to pull this off for so long is frankly unbelievable. She's living with him, so that seals it in my book. A week or so ago I had expressed that she could come back to our house and just live here in another room temporarily if things went badly. I've since wisely reversed course on that. This goes to even though she asked for the divorce, she hasn't filed, saying she'd like me to stay there for a year so our kids have a fallback place if needed. That's crap. She's protecting her fallback position. She also hasn't changed her address or moved out all of her stuff. I will be filing myself instead. We have been super amicable on property division, agreeing on everything except my 401 Kelvin, which is about 8 times the size of hers. I'm working on that, and inner fog and some level of remorse I think I can make out better than straight 50 over 50. My goal now is to get myself right, improve my health and demeanor. I told her going forward we will do everything by email. Thanks for listening. I'm still piecing together some things, but I think I know who it is based on some statements my MIL made. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for the thoughts so far everyone, much appreciated. To answer a couple questions. Reader comment, I'd file a SAP. Get this now poisonous person out of your life and do whatever you can to get her out of your house. Let her go live with Mr. Wonderful. Original poster, she is out of the home and living with AP. Conveniently, as I noted, she hasn't changed her address, which would mean actual work like new license, changing car registration and insurance, etc. Reader comment, do you know anything about the other guy? My guess is that he is also married, and they had a plan to end their marriages at the same time to be together. It's entirely possible that he won't hold up his end of the bargain, at which point you will need to figure out how you will react if she comes crying home with her tail between her legs. Original poster, I have my suspicions based on something my MIL said about AP when wayward wife told told her and her father she was leaving me. I should know more tomorrow. I do know he is already divorced. Reader comment, getting officially separated limits the damage that will backsplash onto you and your kids. He's not a winner by any means since he was happy being in a PT relationship with a married woman for over a year. He's definitely not worth losing her kids over, and that's where she's headed. Original poster, no kidding grubs. I told her about 2 weeks ago, this guy is risking nothing in this relationship since he's already divorced. She's willing to blow up a marriage that is about 7/8 there. She's losing her honor, integrity, reputation, financial stability, siblings, parents and children on a big maybe. The woman has always been a bit impulsive, and this is a great example. Her mother told me the other day she never thought about consequences of actions as a kid. Reader comment, I'm really sorry for you. As others have given you some great advice, I don't need to repeat them. One thing though, you need to be prepared in the event she decides she made a mistake. You are probably thinking, damn, it doesn't know what she's talking about. But you see, she's hedging her bets. She's counting on you to be her backup plan just in case this affair doesn't work out. Please don't allow this. I'm suggesting that you tell her she has X days to get all her stuff. Then change the locks. Change passwords to everything. Bank accounts and credit card accounts and cable and utility accounts, etc. and lock down your social media. Unfriend her. Start to out some distance between you. If she wants out, she's out. 100% out. Will she be mad or hurt or whatever? Yes. But she made the decision to lie and cheat and end the marriage. So, she must live with that choice. I'm not saying D her. I'm just saying don't be left in limbo while she plans you as her backup plan. You deserve better than that. Again, I'm sorry you are facing this. I don't understand why she was not honest, but trust me, she was never unhappy until she met the other guy. Original poster, thank you. I'm planning just that about getting the remainder of her things. No 1 foot here, 1 there. That also goes with what I said up thread about changing your address. I control all the finances and have all the accounts protected. Her pay goes into her own separate checking account, which is fine by me. No social media to worry about, neither of us use it. I have implemented an email-only policy going forward. I told her last time we spoke I need to put distance between us so I can move forward and heal. I told her the woman I married is gone and has been replaced by someone I don't even recognize, nor does any of her family, especially our sons. The thing is, she is so stubborn I suspect she'd stick it out over there and just be miserable rather than admit defeat. Unless he gives her the boot. Apparently, she managed to be unhappy with me for years, but of course never bothered to verbalize that. Reader comment, it also gives her more time to fully test drive AP. I'd be surprised if the gleam isn't already dulling there. It's one thing to be sparsely dating in the shadows. Whole another story to be living with someone. Original poster, amen to that. She works from home, and she kind of hinted he does too. 24/7 is going to expose all the warts very quickly. I know how she can be after a bad day with her boss, or on house cleaning day, or after a tiff with her mother, or planning meals for the week, etc. I ran a lot of interference over the years for her in minor family squabbles. This guy doesn't even know her family, but hey, they're no all estranged from her at the moment anyway. Speaking of which, there were some family issues with her brother, SIL, around Christmas last year. To sweep her away from it, I took her to Florida for 4 days. We had a great time, played some golf, ate some nice meals. And although she was careful about the use of the toll pass to go CAP in general, she missed a few when I scrolled back through the records. The day after we got back from FL, she ran over there that evening for a few hours. I think she told me she was meeting her girlfriend for a few drinks. Things like that are why there is no going back. Reader comment, when you can set aside the emotions for a bit, take the chance to just watch your wayward wife. Unknow everything you possibly can about her, and see her with fresh eyes, not as your wife but as just another member of the crooked timber of humanity stumbling through life. In time perhaps you can feel pity for her. I already do ... seen this play out too many times here. Original poster, I already am to a degree. When I mentioned earlier about having to drop something off to her at work, I got such little reaction when I told her I don't sleep, blood pressure up, eating problems, etc. Now, of course, in retrospect I shouldn't have even bothered to mention those things. They don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't have stabbed you in the heart for so long. What makes all that tougher is I was so good to this woman. Did my share of helping around the house, provided nicely, was always kind and caring, had her back when she had little tiffs with her family, etc. I just can't process how you so coldly betray someone who treats you that well. Thanks everyone for all the nice thoughts, it means a lot. Reader comment, apparently, she managed to be unhappy with me for years, but of course never bothered to verbalize that. ROFLMAO rolling on the floor laughing. She wasn't that unhappy until she met the My husband traveled extensively for his career. I was a single mom for years. I just accepted it as part of his job. It never dawned on me to cheat or use my husband's career to justify cheating. So, here's a true story you may resonate with. On another blog, a guy writes about his brother or brother-in-law who d his wife after 25 years of marriage. He had a long-term affair with his secretary or co-worker at his company. He was some big executive type. Married the very attractive trophy wife. His young adult kids hated her. They tolerated the new wife because she wanted to be their stepmom. She would throw $sign at the kids, but she was not a parent to them. After the their mom passed away, but this new wife was not going to replace their mom. Ever. Now for the husband. How shall I put this? He regretted his choices. Not that he would admit to making a mistake because his ego was that big. He needed to save face. But he married a train wreck. The new wife needed to keep her youthful appearance because after all, her marriage started as an affair. She knew what the husband was capable of, so he was hardly out of her sight. The new wife needed lots of plastic surgery to maintain her appearance and attraction. And clothes, very expensive high-end wardrobe. And now he realizes he has married an alcoholic. The new wife has a drinking problem. Or always had a drinking problem, but it wasn't until the marriage that it became a problem. He's miserable, but will never admit the mistake in marrying the other woman. Cue your wife. This one day may be her. She may be walking into a similar nightmare living with the affair partner. She just doesn't know it yet. It's called consequences. Original poster. He may be the one that ends up regretting it too. Wayward wife has always drunk a lot more than me. Over the last few months before D-Day, I noticed she was drinking more than usual. I'm sure it was a coping mechanism as all of this built to a head. I'm talking 2-3 gin and tonics every night. It's never affected her ability to function, and I'm the only one who's really seen it. Who knows how worse it gets from here as reality starts to set in. Reader comment, Hi Opus. Speaking as one who had a heavy alcohol-dependent cheating husband who did abandon me to live with his AP, there are many scenarios which can play out in your future. Putting aside our current R for the moment, we had a 40-year marriage before his affair. All gone on D-Day. We split up our assets in the months that followed, etc. etc. This was over 3 years ago. And those first long months brought on tons of confusion, instability and upheavals for myself, my adult children, for my mom, for his mom and for him. Over time, things stabilized, grew calmer, quieter, peaceful even. From my experience, what I can say is reach out when times are overwhelming. Tell us what you need specifically so that we can share our experiences with you. The different perspectives that folks have here may help you tremendously. The best to you and to your family. Original poster, thank you for that, not a boring wife, I appreciate it. I'm using every support system and sounding board I can find at this point. Reader comment, I was you, albeit younger. Entered into a committed relationship with a woman around age 21-22. She was brilliant, high-achieving, beautiful. She had a young son from a man with whom she did not share a serious relationship. I moved in with her. We both went to grad school. We struggled to juggle budget, studies, work, child rearing, etc. Lots of physical affair. It was the sort of us against the world struggle that often forges the blue hard steel of a lifelong partnership and relationship. Or so I thought. After grad school, we relocated a couple thousand miles to a new city. Romantic and beautiful city. Hit the ground running. Housing, school, soccer for the kiddo. All of this stuff to me reinforced the us against the world partnership I thought we were forging. When we finally got a bit of extra money saved up, she splurged for a wine country hot air balloon ride with me on my birthday. Super romantic stuff. Then she met the AP. It was like you describe. Gradually increasing emotional distance. I was running at 1 miles per hour trying to establish a foothold in my new career. She was 2, and the kid was in school by then, so I chalked it up to fatigue and stress. I was wrong. Physical affair started to diminish. Again, I incorrectly chalked it up to fatigue and stress. Then she started a hobby and began staying out more frequently, and later, with her hobby activity group. Or so I thought. One morning in December, about 9 years after we got together, she didn't come home. It was a weekday. There were no cell phones in those days. I was up early, fixing breakfast and packing school lunch for her son, getting myself shaved and showered and ready for work, mentally planning my morning of school drop-off, etc. Overall, of that, I was worried about her. The hobby group often went out drinking. Did she get arrested for Dewey? Have a drunk driving accident? How could I find these things out? I was already thinking of who to call when, around 7 a.m., she drove into the driveway. Came into the house, disheveled, wearing her work clothes from the day before. I'm seeing another man. I'm going to leave you and move in with him. My son will come with me. I was gutted. Literally could not breathe. Actual physical pain in my heart. I drove the son to school, then went to work, closed my office door, and collapsed on the floor weeping uncontrollably. In a brand new city. Knew almost nobody. The one person whom I viewed as my pillar, my anchor, poof. Gone. Christmas that year was literally hell. We were separating our household stuff and each planning a move, but getting a new place around Christmas is almost impossible. There was a lot of overlap. I actually came home from a workplace Christmas party, fairly intoxicated, bundled in a warm coat, to find her in the living room watching a movie and canoodling with her new man. They politely retired to the spare room, closed the door, followed by the sounds of giggling and then intimacy. I puked in the toilet next to their room. It was as awful as you can imagine. I'm telling you this to tell you it gets better. You have to put one foot in front of the other and start moving on. Baby steps at first. In my case, we shared custody of the son on an ad hoc, informal basis, meaning I had to interact with her for years. The first few times, I wept when I saw her and begged her to reconsider. Her eyes were cold as ice. As an aside, I'm pretty sure she is somewhat ASD. She's brilliant but detached in the way one often sees in a description of mild Asperger's. Here's a thing. The first time you have sex with somebody new, it will be like the coolest, sweetest drink of water you've ever had, like the first drink after almost dying of thirst in the hot desert. And physical affair for guys our age is plentiful. A buddy of mine, age 60, recently got divorced. If your equipment still works more or less normally, and if you are solvent, it's a buyer's market out there for men, my friend. Take advantage of it as soon as you possibly can. When you're basking in the afterglow, silently thank your wife. Years later I met the woman who is now my wife of many years. The son was my best man. It was a sweet wedding and life has been good since then. In many ways I owe a debt of gratitude to my ex. I didn't realize how difficult she was to be in a relationship with until I was in an easy relationship. When we were young, I thought of her as intense. In hindsight, intense is just the flip side of bad SHT crazy. Original poster, thanks. That is quite similar in many ways, and my sympathy that you're had to go through something so horrible. Wow, update. I now know who the is thanks to some of the info I got from my MIL. He and my wayward wife worked together for over 20 years. She left that employment 4 years ago. Sometimes in the same department, but not towards the end. They have not worked together for the last 4 years. There is a group of 6-8 of them that all worked there previously that get together now and then, including wayward wife and His oldest and my youngest are the same age. There were occasional trips to amusement parks when the kids were little and such, and his then wife and I were both there most of the time. I would say he has been divorced from her for maybe 8-10 years. He's been to my home. We've met them for concerts and other such things, though not since his divorce. I know he used wayward wife as a bit of a sounding board when going through his divorce while at work. I do believe it was no more than that at the time. I really do. And there's not much I believe in this situation right now. Here's my suspicion. In one of those group get-together, wayward wife expressed her unhappiness with our man and talked to him about it since he'd gone through a divorce. Next thing you know, she's going over there to have longer talk because he was so supportive, and the train kept rolling on to the next station. Quite frankly, she's normally someone way out of his league. She is class, dresses nice, and is attractive for her age. He's not. Quite clearly, he saw an opening and did exactly what these cheaters want, validated their feelings, made them feel good, told them how beautiful they are, how could anyone neglect you, played on her emotions, etc. She fell right into it. I think he's my total opposite, really. Directly opposite political, worldviews, religions, values, etc. I don't know what to think now. I've heard the phrase they always affair down, and yeah, that fits. There is a litany of comparisons, but let's just say she really went downhill here. My sister looked him up on Facebook when I was on the phone with her, and all she could say was ex-wayward wife gross. Not sure knowing all this is actually better or worse in this equation. I keep telling myself she left you for that troll. This is obviously much more than a normal affair relationship, as they have a long history and may know each other better than most APs in these situations. Living together and dealing with people all day every day is a whole different story though, I guess. Reader comment, I agree her fantasy will eventually crash. Most do. The good news is you will get to the point where you won't care who she is with, whether it is with the AP or someone else. The goal moving forward is not to feel hate for her or obsess about who she is with. The long-term goal is to get to the point of indifference. You simply won't care. You will be living your best life. The best revenge is a life well lived. Always value yourself. Bad things happen to good people like yourself. It is how you respond to adversity that will pave your way to your future happiness. No contact means no new hurts. Original poster, thanks, I think so too, and it will be a big whatever to me hopefully by then. I'm working every day to unwind her mentally from my life, since the physical is a done deal. It's very hard getting past 30 years of good memories, and I'm triggered easily. That being said, I've slept a bit better the last 2 nights, which has certainly helped my overall well-being. Reader comment, say it all the time, willing and available are the only requirements. APs are seldom better. I describe them as just living, breathing physical affair dolls used to allow the wayward wife to live out their fantasy. I'd also bet on at least a significant eBack during his divorce. He wasn't the only one sharing. Might even be that your children being younger was the only thing that kept her in the M. That'd be an interesting discussion to have with his ex. None of that changes your path. She chooses him, as unworthy as he is, over you. You deserve better than that, so that's all the more reason to move forward with D. Get yourself free to find someone more worthy of you. If somehow, someway, your wayward wife extracts her head from her ass and becomes that person that's worthy, then cross that bridge then. But don't expect that of her, and certainly don't wait to hope her house of cards collapses. Original poster, that's a valid point, and I wouldn't put an E at the time out of the realm of possibilities. I'd contact his ex but have no idea where she might be. She's a bit of a wacko anyway. Reader comment, my story is very similar to yours. Long-term marriage, no red flags, etc. etc. This SHT will leave you questioning everything. It is such a stunning, gobsmacking, baffling blindside ... You're gonna be in a mind F-shock state for quite a while, obsessively ruminating over every detail. Let all this flow through you. Let your mind process. Things will gradually improve. As others mentioned, move quickly towards divorce. Take advantage of this fleeting opportunity to execute an amicable divorce. Take advantage of the fog, while it lasts, to secure best terms possible while avoiding petty fights over who gets the espresso machine. Do not wait for her. Do not play the pick-me dance. If she breaks out of the fog and realizes she effed up, she needs to come running after you. She needs to request reconciliation. She needs to make a very compelling argument as to why you should take her back, followed up with a very well thought out plan for R that includes exhaustive self-evaluation. And I see. She needs to convince you that you are not her fallback plan B, that you are her one and only, and that she will devote the balance of her life proving that you. Anything less than this, and you're pissing away the remainder of your life in a limbo state that lacks specialized authenticity, sincerity, security, and true love. Do not settle for anything less or in between true remorse or a well-executed divorce. I'm your age and I've moved on. Except for my ramblings on here, I have really moved on. I'm with beautiful gal now who has completely taken my mind off this saga. Original poster, thanks. I am questioning everything, and you're describing exactly what I'm going through. I am not playing the pick-me dance, no sir. I don't see a path where she is able to make the effort required to fix, even if I was willing. Plus, this is such a long-term thing, I don't see that as repairable. Besides, as I mentioned elsewhere, she is stubborn and bad at acknowledging errors. She'd sooner continue in misery there than admit she fouled up. Reader comment, Opus, I just wanted to say how sorry I am for you. Your wayward wife is literally throwing away a lifetime of love and support for nothing. Something you mentioned resonated with me. I too vilified my wayward wife's AP and focused on it. But at the end of the day, the most gorgeous woman could come on to me harder than any woman has in history, and I would still politely decline. Your wayward wife made all these choices and made all the decisions to cheat. This is all on her. Don't focus on the AP. I did, for too long, and it didn't do anything but delay progress. Be strong. Get your D done as soon as possible and take advantage of your wayward wife's fog to secure as good a settlement as you can. Original poster, thanks for the thoughts, I appreciate it. I'm trying every day to change my focus and it is slowly starting to work. Reader comment, Opus, I'm very sorry you are here, brother. It sucks. It just really sucks. But let me assure you it gets better and will eventually be a distant memory clouded by newer, happier ones. I don't talk about my story on here much when I reply to posts, but for you and your story, I think mine is very similar. The main difference between our stories is I caught my ex-wayward wife cheating, yours confessed. With mine, when I caught her, I basically moved her out that night without her knowing. I took IIRC over 40 giant yard bags filled with everything she owned and dumped them on his porch while she was inside with him. When she saw it, she called, and I told her not to come home. She played tough and was screaming that she didn't want to. Because of her being in the la la land of unicorns and rainbows, I got custody of our 2 girls, and I got our car and almost all furniture. It wasn't until maybe 6 months later when she called crying, begging to come home because he was an asshole and he was supposedly mean to her. Nope, I didn't let that happen. It was then that her anger came out and she started trying to get everything she passed on. But it was too late. My point is, strike a SAFP while she's on her honeymoon in La La Land and you can probably have a painless divorce that's very much in your favor. I also believe in your case that she will try to come home eventually, so be prepared for that. Just do what's good for you quickly. Original poster, thanks man. Your story is painful as well, my sympathies. I'm getting my ducks in a row as we speak. Reader comment, I had started writing a post for this thread about focus. There has been so much emphasis on how miserable your wife will eventually be and how you can find comfort in that. Personally, I don't see any future benefit for you in her happiness or unhappiness. Your future happiness should not be based on what your wife is doing once she is no longer your wife. It's been a very long time since I walked in on my fiancé and like a lifetime ago. I lost all contact with her about 4 years after D-Day and haven't seen her in person for about 3 decades. Wouldn't recognize her if I saw her. I would occasionally run into her dad maybe once every 8 years until he passed away some years ago. Last time we met he mentioned her and the sorry state she was in. I felt pity and a sense of how great potential for a good life had been squandered. That evening, when I went to bed, I didn't feel better, vindicated, or expect a prize for winning infidelity. I just felt sad that a fellow human being that I had once cared so much for had made choices in her life that led her down a road of misery. Had he shared that she hooked up with married him, had a house by the lake, 6 kids all with degrees and successful careers and winning Nobel, a dozen grandkids, a BMW and a summer house in Italy, I don't think I would have been unhappier at the end of that day. My life and the quality of my life is not dependent on the happiness or misery of those that are outside my circle. What's happening now is not your choice. It was never your intention that this marriage wouldn't last, and you probably envisioned retiring with your wife, playing golf, fishing, moving to Florida or whatever. Now your whole future has been changed. There is still a future though, only it isn't as you envisioned it some months ago. Change does not have to equate to worse. However, it is what it is. You aren't divorcing your wife out of your preferred choice. It's not what you envisioned or even wanted, but it's inevitable given the circumstances. You are divorcing her because she moved out to another man, professed her love for him and how she hadn't been happy with you. You are divorcing because the options she's offering make divorce the only logical choice. Once divorced, you work at distancing yourself from her rather than focusing on how she's managing life. For all you know, she and can be totally happy, well off and all that. For all you know, might be invited to the family Thanksgiving dinner at her parents', the one you used to attend. Your happiness should not be dependent on what she does or does not do. It's like if you came home to your house on fire. You wouldn't hesitate on taking action rather than just hope the fire will go out by itself. You would call 911, get help, save what can be saved, maybe take the garden hose to the flames. Later, once the crisis per se is over, you would check if rebuilding were possible, minimize the financial damage and try to learn what caused the flames. You start by addressing the prime problem, and then handle the consequences and sequential issues. At the moment it's seemingly clear that there will be no rebuilding of the old house, and you move on to a new place. You would find little comfort in discovering your wife's possessions were more damaged, or that the neighbor's house burned down too. Focus on the divorce. Focus on making it as fair as your conscience requires. Keep in mind that what you want out of it is partially controlled by law. I have suggested you look into if infidelity affects divorce in your state. There are still a few where it can impact factors like spousal support. I have a friend who is a family attorney. He stated that about 60% of the cost of divorce is often focused on maybe 20% of the real value. Like people will argue about a possession worth $100 spending $1,000 in legal fees. He also stated that as a rule attorneys can tell you with uncanny certainty what the financial outcome will be once they have all the information required. You mention your 401k. If you are the typical family unit, then maybe the reason yours is higher is because she took years off work to raise the kids. That in turn created an environment where you could work more, climb the corporate ladder and all that. The law simplifies things by generally evaluating all financial acquisitions in marriage as joint, irrespective of who broke sweat to create the income. Keep in mind the absolute worst advice to follow on here is legal advice. This could be totally different in your state, but this is a very general and widespread POV. If you don't agree with the law, then go sign a petition or write your local politician a letter. But don't expect the judge to use anything other than the law as it's presented and has been applied so far. I'm not suggesting you give her half of yours, but maybe your best option might be to agree to her getting more equity in the house in lieu of the 401 Kelvin. You can calculate it to your advantage. For example, if she was demanding 100k of your 401k and there are still 10 years until you are eligible to withdraw without tax or penalty, it might equate to 60k after taxes and penalties. Since it's paid up front instead of 10 years down the road, it might even equate to 30k. It's basically comparable calculation lottery winners are faced with when deciding on a lump sum. Or if there is something she values, then let her take that at full value in lieu of any claim she might have to the 401k. Basically, make it non-personal and be result-driven. Original poster, yeah, that was the plan. You're right, this is the only logical choice going forward and I've accepted that. Reader comment, I want to clarify my prior posts. It wasn't a Karma's a BTCH post, but I posted the story about the cheating Bill from a different perspective. The point was the cheater Bill was miserable in his second marriage but would never admit he made a mistake. I was comparing him to Opus's wife in that she appeared to be trying to keep her options open. I hoped if she believed she had made a mistake she would not suffer in silence to save face with Opus. That she would admit her mistake, not trash her marriage if there was a chance to. It's hard to stop loving and caring about someone you spent decades married to. It takes time to let reality set in that your spouse has moved on. Original poster, that's the part I struggle with. I know who she is now, and I know the woman I married is gone. It gets very hard at times to separate the two, especially when something triggers me, which is quite often. Thanks for watching the video. Please click the thumbnail to watch part 2 of the saga.